All right. Welcome to Aspen Updates in an Instant for September. Um, all right. So we did have two releases this time. We talked about it last time. We had a 2308.10 as well as the 2309 release. So 2308.10, one of our libraries was going live and had some changes that we needed before the full 2309 was out. So we'll talk about those first, and then we can roll into 2309. There was also a 230801 that had a few little changes, nothing, a lot of little things. So for 2308.10, some big stuff that we did there. So events, we keep doing more and more with events so that there's lots of fun stuff there. One of the big things we did this time was making facets customizable per library. So you can now go into your system admin and events and go to event facet settings, and you're able to edit any of these. So by default, it's going to show you all of your facets that are available. Depending on the platform you have, some of these may be relevant and some may not. But just like you can with grouped work facets, you can drag those up and down and modify them. So here I just have done a search with kind of the defaults. So say maybe our event type isn't something that we're really promoting to patrons. We want to keep it internal. So we could get rid of that. We can just say like, hey, let's get rid of the event type. And maybe we want what branch it's at to be before the age group. So we'll just save those. And then when we refresh our page, we've got our branch, our age group, we got rid of the event type. So, and we can customize all of that. So good, just kind of quality of life functionality to be able to kind of personalize Aspen to how you're using events. The other thing we did with that is add a brand new facet to be able to limit according to the event date. So for example, here, if I only want to see things that are happening in October, I can say from October 1st until the 31st, do my search there and see all of our October things. So nice way for people to really find those things. They can find what they're looking for this week or next month or this month. Good stuff for that. We also added the ability to limit what events are indexed. So you can say, hey, we only want to index 90 days worth of events. Maybe we really have our calendar locked down for the next 90 days, not the next year. But maybe we have a few recurring events that go out for a year that we don't really want to show people. So we could say, let's lock that down to 90 days. And that is in each of those event settings. You're able to go through and set those. So like if we were using Spring Share, we can say, hey, let's lock that down to 365 days. So good way to do that. Some more little Koha updates. So we're always working on our ILS integrations, adapting as new functionality comes out in the ILS. So in this case, in Koha, there's a brand new ability that is not, it will come out to everybody later. But at least for this one library, there's now the ability to manually renew checkouts that have been scheduled for auto renew, so you can renew early. So nice way to do that. And then also previously we were kind of assuming that if you had ILL, that you had an item type of ILL, and definitely found a case where that wasn't. Somebody had a couple of different ILL item types. So now you can customize those and define what ILL types are treated as ILL. Also did some little more things to make things easy for patrons. So in the where is it dialog, we did some more sorting of what branches are displayed when. So if you're in a library, we're going to show those materials first, then your home library, then nearby libraries. If you're logged in, then nearby libraries for the branch, and then all of the other branches at the library system, and then everything else. So if you're in a consortium, you kind of push the things that aren't as important lower. So all kinds of really cool updates to improve quality of life there. And then 2309, Jordan's going to talk through the Aspen LIDA updates. I'll concentrate on the Aspen Discovery ones. So in account settings, this is really cool. We've been talking for, I think, the past couple of releases about some of the work we're doing with Overdrive to be able to recover password information and account information. We've added that to Aspen now as well. So there is a new switch for your library system that is the enable the forgot barcode link on the login screen. What that does, so if we let me log out here, and now when I log in, if I don't know it, we have the forgot library card number. If we click on that, that will take me to a place where I can enter my phone number and it will look it up. If I have multiple accounts, it's going to text me all of those. So maybe I have 2 or 3 accounts tied to my phone number for myself and the kids. So I would get all of those. This is a separate step, obviously, to recovering your PIN. If you don't know your PIN, then you would have to recover your barcode and then get your PIN. This is the first thing that's using Twilio. So in order to use this, you will need a Twilio account. So that's something that the library will need to sign up for if they want to use this. All right. The other thing we didn't talk about, I think we talked about a little bit before. So we started it in 230810, and then it also is obviously in 2309. Just internally, we were storing username and barcode together in the database. We found some cases where 2 different users might actually share the same data. So one would have the barcode and one would have the username that matched, which leads to some confusion. We cleaned that up so that that is now more straight. Well, so it is now stored independently in the database, which is cool. And then, so I'm just going to sign in here. So one of the consequences of that is if you masquerade, we're now going to prompt you for either the barcode or the username, and that then allows us to masquerade as the proper patron. This does depend on if your ILS supports a separate username in addition to the barcode for login, and if the APIs do it. So right now, might have to have Miranda correct me if I'm wrong. The ones that do support barcode that we know of are Koha, Polaris, Sierra, Carlex, right?
I think that's right. Yes.
Yeah. So not Evolve, and Evergreen doesn't support lookup by username. So there is a username, but we weren't able to do the lookup that way. So we will continue to work on those. And I forget if I mentioned Symfony and which way that worked. I think Symfony does not allow it, but we'll check. This code will, of course, be deployed to test servers so that you can test it. And if we think that there is a username, we've got time to update. So you now masquerade with those. The other thing that we did is while masquerading, we set a time limit on that. So if you're masquerading, we've got a kind of hard-coded default that says, hey, you can't masquerade for more than 15 minutes of inactivity. So we wanted to avoid the cases of somebody masqueraded and then went back to like close their browser or something, came back in, they were still masquerading. So that will now time out. That will also time out sessions. So if I'm inactive, the default, I think, session period is an hour. So if I don't have Remember Me, I log in and I walk away for an hour, it will refresh the browser so that I'm back to the home page, just kind of for patron privacy and that kind of thing. We want to make sure that we cleared those all out. I'm going to jump backwards to the Twilio account. The Twilio accounts are a service that you pay for. So if you do want that We have not found a free way of sending SMS messages that is reliable. You used to be able to send to email addresses, and that would translate kind of magically into a text message, and all of the phone providers have kind of gone away from that. So unfortunately, that is something that you will have to pay for. Let's see. Moving on, we have several administration updates. So we've added the ability to export to CSV, and this works for most administration tables. It was originally designed for the e-commerce report and the donations report. So if I go in, I go to any of my math, okay, and then somebody says for over 30 days they've paid 1.37 cents per Twilio text message from Koha, so fairly cheap. And the volume on this should be quite low because it will only send it if somebody has forgotten and they are a valid user. So obviously won't text them to say we didn't find one. So export to CSV. So let's just look. So say we're looking at some of our manual grouping. So we've been doing a bunch of manual grouping and we want to download these for use in Excel. So we can just say export either selected to CSV or export everything to CSV. So here we can do that and it will pop up and we'll be able to download it and do whatever we want. That will then show up in CSV. It's a common delimited format with quotes surrounding. And again, that works for almost everything. There are some limitations. So right now it is exporting just the information displayed in this table. So for something like libraries that may have 100 different properties, it is only showing you what we show by default. And it is limited to 1,000 rows at a time. So if you need more than that, you may have to do some filtering to filter down that set. It will respect any applied filters. So if I wanted to say, let's add a filter that is date added, and I could say only do things after, let's say the start of the year or something. We don't do a lot on this, so don't know that that's actually gonna, yeah, maybe that's gonna get some. Let's say the start of 2022. So we could apply those filters and we'll get a few fewer, so you can limit it that way and that export will work. And then obviously the export selected will only do the selected ones. So really cool functionality there. We've had a lot of people wanting to export that kind of thing recently. So also on the administration train and more things there. So we've added the ability to lock individual fields. This is going to tend to be used more within consortia and is applied in addition kind of to the permissions. So we have the ability now to say, like, for example, maybe you are giving permissions to people that would allow them to, for example, change the footer text, but you don't want them to change the footer text. Maybe as a consortium, you're putting something by default into the footer, so we can lock that. And then anybody who has permission to lock and unlock can edit it still. But people that don't have that permission, it will still show up, but it will be read-only. So you now have the ability to say, like, hey, your permissions technically would allow you to do this, but we don't want you to. So we're not going to let you change your footer text, or maybe your home link, or maybe we don't want you to add additional CSS. These can just be locked and unlocked. And then only certain people can do it. So nice additional way to lock down some fields rather than having to have like a permission per specific field. So cool things for consortia there. We definitely have had a couple of requests for that. With those e-commerce reports that we talked about for the exporting, did a lot of work for both the e-commerce report and the donation report. in terms of who can view what reports. So previously it was an all or nothing thing. You could either see e-commerce reports and donation reports for everyone, or you could not see them. So we added 2 new permissions that were being able to see it for your home library. Because some of these payments are a little odd, it will allow you to see anything that was paid from your home library interface. So if I'm at library A, and somebody makes a payment on library A, I would be able to see that. I would also be able to see any payments that were made by patrons of library A, even if that was made on a different interface. So if the payment was made on library B's site, then we would still see that. So cool functionality to be able to see that and be able to kind of let each of the libraries be able to do that on their own. Also, with some of the facet updates, we have added the ability to customize the website facets as well as the Open Archive facets in exactly the same way that the event facets can be configured. So I won't show that since it's very similar, but very cool functionality. That means now that all of those facets can be customized. So everywhere in Aspen that you see a facet, you should be able to customize them. Some other interface, just like some like data protection-y things there. Like we had some people trying to, well, that were successfully placing holds that automatically canceled in the past. Why you would want to do that and put in a hold that automatically cancels as soon as you put it in, I don't know. People were doing it. We have now prevented it. So they will at least get an error that says, that was weird. Don't do that. Put a date in the future. Same kind of deal. There was a way for people to pay fines that were more than the outstanding amount. We're not going to let people do that. If they want to do that, they should use the donation functionality. So you now only get to pay the amount of fines that you have fines. More ILS updates for both Polaris and Symphony as part of 2309. Let's see. Next thing I wanted to talk about was restricting single sign-on by IP address. So we've had the ability. So last time we introduced the ability to masquerade based off IP address, so that you could say people can only masquerade within the building. And then we had a request that said, like, we don't really want our staff logging in from home. When they're at home, they should be doing home things, not work things. So we are limiting now based off the IP address if you wish. So this is going to be very similar to how it was done for Masquerade. Within the IP addresses, you can say there is the allow single sign-on, and in the library system, if that is checked on, oh, sorry. Those are then using the single sign-on settings. So you can choose to restrict. So where do you want to allow single sign-on from? So from all IP addresses or from only enabled IP addresses. So another cool way of doing that to make sure that you're only allowing people to log in from the right places and only do staff things from staff places. Also wanted to talk a little bit about just some translation updates. So we made some updates for what is translated, how it's translated. There were a few things that were the same text but used in different contexts. So we added some of the context around that, and also made sure that we had some special characters that weren't getting encoded properly and looking out for null values and all those kind of good things. Last thing I'm going to talk about, and then I'll turn it over to Jordan. Within Web Builder, we added the ability to create polls within Web Builder. So we now have within Web Builder, there is quick polls with the thought that maybe someday we will have more advanced polls, but right now these are designed for single or multiple selections of options. They have basic poll information. So We have the ability to give a title. So we're going to, and we'll talk about this later, we will have a poll for, hey, what topics do you want for AspenCon? Given an alias, some introductory text, very similar to like a custom form. You can choose if login is required, and if you need people to enter their names and emails, all that good stuff. Define what values are there, whether or not people are allowed to do multiple selections or only one at a time, and if people can suggest a new option, and then define what libraries it applies to. So here is our sample poll. So we have our poll, we can enter our name. And I can say, hey, I really want to know about some accessibility, more about side loading and user research. If I wanted something else, I could say, hey, I really want to know about browse categories. So I could add that in and then submit it, and it'll tell me thank you. All of those responses can be viewed up here. We have the ability to view submissions, and you can see what was selected for each one. We're going to have kind of a summary page for this as well. We didn't quite get it done before now, but it'll be done before the release, just to be able to say like, oh, like 10 people liked accessibility, or 15 people liked the user research and usability, so that you can kind of see that in a nice graph or something, or at least a table to be able to download. I think that's it for discovery. I'll pass it over to Jordan to talk LIDA.
All right, so we have more barcode scanning fun today. So I am doing the awkward share from my iPad. So forgive me, it gives you a little countdown, 3, 2, 1 before you're allowed to share. And there we go. Okay, let's see. And we are going to get into LIDA. Now you saw Mark show within Aspen Discovery that we had the forgot password and the forgot barcode and username there as well. Or we had that, we have it in LIDA as well. If you look under the sign in button, you see that forgot barcode or username link. I'm gonna tap on that right now. And then you can see same thing. It'll have you put in your phone number. That explanation text that Mark showed you in Discovery, when this goes live, it will have that same explanation text, works the same way. Just that same functionality in LIDA. We've also added the forgot password functionality into LIDA. So LIDA and Discovery again are equivalent. So you do need both your barcode or your username and your email here in order to reset your password. So now on to some of the fun stuff. I'm going to go ahead and sign in. If you look in the search bar at the top of the page, you see that little barcode icon on the right. Now, we showed you this last time, the barcode scan to search, and we had a suggestion that if someone is using this and only one item is found within Aspen Discovery, to just go directly to that item. And that makes sense, right? If you're scanning a barcode, chances are you're probably only going to find one, and then it just saves users a click or a tap of getting into that one. So I'm going to tap on that barcode icon right now. Okay, and you see the same title that I had before, people we meet on vacation. And instead of bringing me to search results when it finds it this time, it's going to go directly to that item. It will only do this from LIDA and only from barcode scanning. And that's really important because we never want to assume that when someone has made a search that they want the first thing that's found. It's just that barcode scanning is a special case and we realize that we could save users a step. Okay, now for the really fun stuff. If you look at the bottom of this screen right now, you'll see a scan and go with another one of those barcode icons. Now, this is the checkout using LIDA functionality. This is only the first round. So if you worked with us, a bunch of you on the call worked with us on coming up with phases. This is off or on. It's not where it would only work within the library, as we talked about. That will be a later iteration, but we just wanted to get the most basic in right now to make sure that it's working and it's good. And a good number of our libraries were fine with not needing that location limiter. Okay, so right now I'm going to tap on that scan and go in the bottom. It does support linked accounts. So you see new checkout session. I'm clicking on that down arrow next to select an account, and I see I have the choices. I'm going to stick with Jordan F and then tap start. Okay, so here's my checkout page. I have the big green button at the top that says add a new item. I have that. And now what I did was I used a barcode from an item within the catalog to create a barcode that I could scan during this demo. And you can see then people we meet on vacation is checked out to me. I'm going to tap add new item again to get the next one. And then I have another barcode. And I have the second one checked out to me. Now, these are checked out at the time of scanning. So we did some different things with kind of showing, should we show them all at once? How should we make the user flow? And this made the most sense to check them out one at a time and then have the user click finish. So I just tapped finish. And now if you have linked accounts or if your kids are standing around you, you might want to start a new session. Your other option here is to view checkouts. So I'm going to view checkouts, and you can see immediately that we have the 2 titles that we just checked out in my checked out items. So that's what we have for the demo today. We did a few other things. We fixed a bug that would cause so when we were onboarding people with notifications, we were basically prompting them a little too often. Do you want notifications? Do you want notifications? So we got a couple tickets on that, and we said, we're not going to show that as often. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is that for Koha, Lida now supports the ability to cancel a hold where it didn't before. If you look at the release notes, there are a few other updates, but that's it for your Lida demo today. And I'm going to stop sharing.